Good evening and welcome. I'm Reverend Paula Soul. I'm in Ashland, Oregon, and I'm going to open us up with a prayer for our earth by Pope Francis. All-powerful God, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. O God of the poor, help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly linked with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us, we pray, in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. So thank you for joining tonight for this session on faith and the New Green Deal. Scott Shirlett is a member at Waverly UCC in Southeast Portland, where he's currently serving as the church moderator there. He also practices Jewish faith traditions with Havra Shalom. He advocates for a Green New Deal with 350 Portland and is a volunteer leader with Eco-Faith Recovery, where he's currently taking action to get out the vote for the November election. He's also working with the Oregon Public Bank Alliance to bring the benefit of public banks to Oregon cities. So I think he must be retired to have the time to do all these wonderful things. So we're really grateful to have you here tonight, Scott, to share with us.
Yay. Paula, do you want to go around and have people just give us your name and your faith community, if you could? And so let's start with Frank.
I'm Frank Baldwin. I'm a retired local church minister. I'm a member at Portland First.
Great.
And I'm a backpacker and a lifetime Sierra Club member, and continue to get outdoors as often as I can and hike a trail or two.
Thanks, Frank. Kathy.
I'm Kathy White. I'm from Lake Oswego United Church of Christ, and am the moderator there at present time.
Oh, wow, a lot of moderators here. Donna Faith.
I live in Dallas. I'm a member at First Congo in Salem, and I'm a retired UCC pastor.
Kristen.
I'm Kristen Burkert. I'm the new moderator at Bridgeport UCC. I'm a former United Methodist pastor, and I work currently for the city of Portland.
John?
And John.
Hi, I'm John, and I am a member at Riverside Community Church here in Hood River. I'm working a lot on climate issues. I'm a UCC retired pastor. I'm working with the Columbia Gorge Climate Action Network, and I also am a part of a monthly gathering for the National UCC Environmental Advisory Council. So it's good to be here.
Thank you.
All right. Andrew. You're muted.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was uncharacteristic for me. Usually you can hear me. I am Andrew Miller. I'm at, also with Waverly. I'm, full disclosure, I'm a friend of Scott's. I'm also a thorn in his side because I serve on his district.
Shelley.
I'm Shelley Wagner, and I am a member at First Congregational Church in ordained pastor, but currently working as a volunteer coordinator in hospice. So I am on, officially leave of absence in terms of my ordination standing.
Which First Congregational,
In
Shelley?
Salem.
Thank you.
Jeff?
Jeffrey? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jeff Pratt. I'm with Clackamas United Church of Christ. I've been moderator, but I'm currently treasurer. And my family's supported the Nature Conservancy for years and years and years, and and also the Columbia Land Trust. We have a conservation easement on a portion of our property through them. So we've been in the conservation game for quite some time, 2 or 3 generations at least.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Welcome, Carl. Just introducing ourselves with name and our church.
Okay, thank you. I'm Carl Wamser, and I'm from Lake Oswego, UCC. My interest is in solar energy. I'm a retired chemistry professor, and I've worked on solar energy from the chemistry angle for many years.
And Nan.
I go to Hillsdale Community Church, and a lot of the workshops sounded good, but this sounded like I needed to learn the most.
Great, welcome.
Nice to see you, Nan.
May I fulfill your expectations?
All right, I'm gonna put us on speaker view here. No, it's not right. Hang on. Scott, speaker view.
All right, and I'm going to share my screen.
There we go.
Hopefully it'll work. There we go. Yay. So just a quick overview of our session. First, I'll give this brief presentation. Hopefully I can fit it in about 15 minutes. Then we'll go have a little bit of Q&A, just clarifying Q&A. Questions afterwards. Go into a breakout session where you can.
Sorry, that was my mistake. Say that again, Scott.
You're still muted, Scott.
Okay, here I go. Then we'll go into a breakout room where we will share your thoughts on the Green New Deal with one other person. Come back and do a full group share, and then we'll go into a closing. I guess I'll suggest that during the presentation, if you have questions, in the interest of time, put the questions into the chat, and then at the end of the presentation, we'll try to address those questions.
Oh, shoot, I did it again, Scott. I think.
All right, we're good now?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right. So we're at a pivotal point in our region, in the nation, and indeed across the world, with multiple crises all sort of boiling over at the same time: inequity, economic disruption, racial injustices, and the climate crisis, and certainly the economic crisis that has come upon us during the pandemic. Let's make no mistake, though, most of these are not new, and they're all related. Oh boy, I don't know about you, but when I think about this, I can be overcome with emotions. I think it's important that we acknowledge those emotions and be able to process them, because those emotions are human. One of the emotions that I feel is overwhelmed. How about quickly unmute yourself and give me one word about an emotion that's striking you?
Concerned.
Concerned.
Hopeless.
Hopeless.
Anxious.
Anxious.
Tired.
Tired.
Determined.
Determined. All right. I like that one. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, again, it's human to have these emotions, but I have an idea. And that idea is the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is something that gives me hope because it gives me a way to act. It's a vision to address all of these crises through transformative systemic change. I'm not going to kid you, it's not going to be easy. This is going to be difficult and challenging work over many, many years. And many people and organizations need to come together to work towards this single vision. And it's a vision for a vibrant economy, a healthy planet, and a just society. The Green New Deal connects with many of our faith values. It's a vision to care for everyone through a social safety net, through jobs, through a just transition to care for people and families who are affected by the transition, and for an equitable society. It's also a vision to care for the earth by transforming our system from one that is extremely extractive to one that is regenerative and sustainable. And finally, and perhaps most important, it fosters justice by working to restore democratic processes, centering frontline communities and providing for frontline leadership, and empowering communities. So what is the Green New Deal? Well, it's not specific policy, but I've talked about it as a vision. We also know of it as Federal Resolution, House Resolution 109, that was brought to the House by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Markey of Massachusetts. And more than that, though, it's a movement. It's a movement that crosses age, regional, and racial boundaries. Certainly the Sunrise Movement, we've heard, probably most of us have heard of the Sunrise Movement, a movement of youth who really got into the spotlight when they went and protested in front of Nancy Pelosi's office, and where AOC joined them in the movement to bring the Green New Deal and make that visible in the halls of Congress. We also have a Green New Deal being worked on here by the Oregon Just Transition Alliance, which is an organization of people of color centered here in Portland. But the Green New Deal is not just a progressive movement for liberals on the East and West Coast. There's also a regional Green New Deal for the Gulf South, led by people in the Gulf South who recognize that they need jobs, and the environment in the Gulf South has been harmed dramatically by fossil fuels in the chemical industry. And the Green New Deal concept extends beyond the US with a European Green New Deal and Green New Deal visions across the world. The Green New Deal is a vision for transforming to a sustainable economy, for a healthy planet, and for the health of all people. The Green New Deal really has 4 goals, and all of these goals are interconnected. And why shouldn't they be? If the problems are interconnected, then the solutions should be too. I speak of these goals in 4 categories: a healthy climate, economic vitality, justice and equity, and human well-being. The genius of the Green New Deal to me is its recognition that transforming to a green economy and restoring the environment can and will create a vibrant economy if we also address historic injustice, work towards an equitable society, and care for everyone. So a healthy climate. I've listed here many of the projects and goals of the Green New Deal that fit into the healthy climate category. In order to have a healthy climate, we need to rapidly transition our energy and our transport systems off of fossil fuels and towards green, clean, renewable sources. And particularly, our energy grid needs to be updated so that we have a distributed and efficient smart grid. And our buildings need to be more efficient, as well as our homes. We also need to talk about agriculture. Agriculture is so important, and transitioning our agricultural systems from industrial, large-scale agriculture to small-scale, regenerative, organic practices is so important to the Green New Deal. And the reason is that we need to be sequestering carbon while we are also increasing the amount of carbon that we sequester through agriculture and through our forests, while we are also reducing our emissions. It's both. We need to do both and balance both sides of the equation of the carbon cycle. So transforming to sustainable farming and land use is so important and part of the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal knows that the expertise for this is not in the federal government, and it's really not in me either, so that collaboration with farmers and ranchers is critical to this process. We also need to restore our natural environment, restore and protect ecosystems, grasslands, forests, wetlands, and waterways. A key thing of all of this is that all of this work will create jobs, 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 jobs. And in order to get those jobs, public investment is absolutely necessary and vital. These jobs will lead to an economic vitality that we haven't seen in decades. The public investment in renewable power sources and upgrading our infrastructure, zero emission vehicles and the infrastructure to go with that, public transit, and making the transition to sustainable and regenerative agriculture. The public investment is necessary because these investments are long-term. And as we know, Wall Street and private investment is extremely short-term these days. So in order to take these long-term innovative risks, the public investment from the federal government is a critical part of the Green New Deal. And there is opportunity for private sector investment as well in clean manufacturing processes, zero emission vehicles, and renewable energy. I think it's important to also mention that the Green New Deal is very strong on revitalizing our communities, that economic development should be in local economies, and that we need to foster public and community ownership in many of these projects so that we are investing in the commons. And where there is public investment, the public should benefit and not be handed over to private companies. The Green New Deal is full of ideas of community empowerment. The projects for building resilient communities should be based on local priorities and community-defined projects and community-defined strategies. Solutions in the Green New Deal are really specific to the community. The community knows what their economic makeup is, what their economic capabilities are, and strategies to restore ecosystems really depend on the ecosystems and the approaches that are appropriate for that region. The Green New Deal is also strong on democratic processes, being inclusive and participatory in those processes. As I mentioned, collaboration with the stakeholders, including farmers, ranchers, indigenous peoples, and leadership by frontline communities and all workers. And in the social justice realm, we need to really strengthen workers' rights and give workers much more power instead of corporations. I keep mentioning frontline communities. So who are these frontline communities in the Green New Deal? Well, the Green New Deal has a very broad definition of frontline and vulnerable communities, indigenous peoples, communities of color, deindustrialized communities, and rural communities that are losing population. Also, workers who are displaced by the transition from fossil fuels or from the extractive economy to the green economy are recognized as stakeholders in this process and part of the frontline community. Human well-being is the last of the four goals and certainly as important as any other. We all have the right to a healthy environment, which means clean air, water, and land, access to nature, and protection from the impacts of climate change. And we need to recognize that those that are being affected most by climate change are actually the marginalized and those who have had the least, made the least contribution to climate change. We also all have a right to basic needs, decent and affordable housing, quality health care, quality education, and affordable healthy food. And finally, we have a right to economic security through living wage jobs and benefits and safe and healthy workplaces. And only when we address these needs, in addition to the needs of the climate and the earth, will we really be able to make headway on the climate issue. So, wow, that's a lot, isn't it? Feel overwhelmed? Too much to do? Well, don't be. Just do your part. Find what your passion is and do your part. And don't go it alone. Find an organization or an organization to partner with, join that organization and join in the movement. So some ideas on categories of things that you can do. One is like this: raise awareness about a Green New Deal. And one way that I like to do that is, and that we practice in my Eco-Faith Recovery cohort, is to develop our stories. Create a personal story that tells why the Green New Deal matters to you, connect it to your values and common values, and practice your story. Then share your story. Tell your story to friends, family, congregants, and even people you run across on the street or maybe in the grocery store. Find opportunities like this to educate others. Hold presentations and workshops in your congregations, in any community or organization that you're connected with. I'm sometimes surprised when I ask people about the Green New Deal and they say, never heard of it, or I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it. So there's plenty of awareness raising to do. Vote, get out and vote. Know your candidates' positions on the Green New Deal and environmental issues. Do your research before you vote. We've got plenty of candidates here in Oregon at the state level to promote a Green New Deal. And get out the vote for Green New Deal candidates by writing letters, phone banking, talking with families and friends. There are lots of resources these days for getting out the vote. And I've listed some of them here. We have the UCC, Our Faith, Our Vote 2020 initiative, Eco-Faith Recovery and EMO have a Just Vote initiative, and there are many, many more. I've listed faith-based initiatives here. And policy. I'm not listing specific policies here. Policies are emerging every day. Green New Deal policies are coming up at the state level, at the federal level, and at the local level. So I recommend that you find your passion, find your community's passion, and follow the energy. Understand the environmental factors in your community or region. What organizations are taking action and join them? What are the opportunities for economic development in your region that are climate friendly or that transition to a green economy? What organizations are taking action there and join them. And finally, what are the social needs in your community or region? And find organizations that are working there. Again, find your community's passion and begin to work in that direction. And make sure that it fits Green New Deal values, because it is true that the movement is also that there are organizations out there that are greenwashing things and are really not breaking corporate power, that are really not a Green New Deal. So make sure that the policy that you're engaged in has a justice component and works towards a distributed and true democratic processes. So I'll break there. I actually don't know what time it is since I'm a full screen. I'll stop share and we'll take a few minutes for questions. Questions, anyone? Clarifying questions?
I have a question. Scott, what do you and others think? Is there any possibility of making progress at all in the Green New Deal unless there's a pretty thorough regime change in this election coming up next month, November?
I think at the federal level, it is very difficult to make progress on the Green New Deal without a change of administration. I do, you know, Frank, you raised something that's very important. I think it is very important that we do elect Joe Biden, even though he's not my favorite, and change to an administration that we can work with instead of an administration that we have to battle every step of the way. Yeah, thanks, Frank. Other questions? Kristen?
I was just wondering if you could give us a little more about specifics of what's in the federal bill, the things that are either controversial, or is it really just, is it focused on these general principles, or are there specific?
So Kristen, the Green New Deal resolution does not contain any specific policy. Okay. It contains high-level goals and a structure for mobilizing the movement. An example of a goal is 100% renewable power by 2030, or I'll say in 10 years. So that assumed that it would be adopted in 2020, which it won't be, but a 10-year time horizon for transitioning to 100% renewable power sources. Another goal is increase, a wide access to mass transit, and that our mass transit systems will be electric. So they're very high level things that we need to develop specific policy for. And that's why community empowerment and community-based solutions are important. Andrew.
Am I muted? No, I'm on. Okay, I think I now know after your presentation, Scott, why I am rather ignorant of the Green New Deal. And I think it goes back to that question you just asked about specifics, because that presentation sounded like a cornucopia of wonderful things that just about everybody I can see on the screen is going to nod their head and say, yeah, we want that, myself included. Yeah. But I think the specifics are where where it gets a little difficult, because it being that cornucopia, it is a challenge. I don't know if you have any pointers for moderators, ex-moderators, etc., in how they get their communities involved?
Sure. Specifics are emerging, and I'll give an example. The Oregon Just Transition Alliance will soon be starting something called an energy democracy campaign, which is a campaign for 100% renewable power sources here in Oregon in 10 years. and an eventual deconstruction of some of the of many of the large-scale hydro as well, and centering the people of color and developing a group of people of color who will be leaders in energy policy from here on out. So these sorts of policy directions are emerging, and joining one of these campaigns is a key way to do that. Any further questions?
So Scott, just a quick question, clarification stuff, right? So, you know, I've heard about Green New Deal, Green New Deal, Green New Deal, and you did a great job of explaining what it was. How do most people get access to seeing what legislators in DC looked at? How was the actual Green New Deal? Was it put forth a series of documents, one big document? How do people get a chance to look at it?
So the Green New Deal is House Resolution 109,
Right.
and you can just Google House Resolution 109, and you will see the text of it right there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see many of the bullets. Of course, my bullets are shorter, but you'll see them, and you'll see them in kind of a random order. So it was the work of my partner Harriet, who's now on the call, who organized it in these four goals to create something that's easier to keep in our minds under these four goals. All right, so I'd like to, Shelley, you had a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw listed there the Echo Faith something, and is that an organization within Oregon, or is it nationwide? What is it?
Eco Faith Recovery is primarily a Portland-centric organization, and we are partnering with Ecumenical Ministries of Oregon, which is a statewide organization, on our Just Vote campaign. So feel free to go to ecofaithrecovery.org /Just Vote, and you'll learn about our campaign. Yeah. All right, I'd like to invite us to go.
Carl has a question.
Oh, Carl.
You can have another minute there, Scott.
I just wanted to add one thing. You have covered an immense amount of things that are apparently included in the new Green Deal. One thing I was surprised was not included in the social justice was something about restorative justice and some way of dealing with the excessive incarceration that's going on.
Thank you, Carl.
Is that part of it, or is that just outside the scope?
Well, there is restorative justice in the sense of repairing historic oppression. There is a very high-level statement in the Green New Deal about that. There is nothing specific about incarceration. So I think that's a great point. All right, I'd like to invite us to go into breakout rooms, and I'm going to suggest that we go into breakout rooms for, I think, 8 minutes. So what I'm going to ask you to discuss with the one person that you are in the room with is, what values of yours do you see in the Green New Deal? And which pieces of the Green New Deal match your values? And try giving a pitch to your discussion partner, communicating your values and how they relate to the Green New Deal. So I'll put those in the chat right now, I think. So Paula, can you go ahead and put us in breakout rooms for 8 minutes? Okay.
Sounds like they were good groups.
So I guess I'd like to open it up to the floor. How were your discussions? Any learnings from the discussions, or any additional Q&A?
I appreciated Carl's background in solar energy and his, we were talking about the the other kinds of renewables with wind and hydropower and the impact that they have on everybody around them, and that solar power has so much promise because it is stationary and is not it's not as disruptive, and there's just limitless capacity in terms of the sun that comes to us.
Thank you. Any other sharings from your conversations?
So one of the concerns that I have that we talked about is that I have not seen enough research to know that it is actually even possible to do it in 10 years. I think it's great to work toward no carbon energy generation, but to the wind farms, you know, do we want them every single place around our country? Do we want, you know, solar panels on every field that doesn't have a wind farm? You know, I think we can reduce our amount of carbon, but I really haven't seen how you can do it in 10 years.
So I think that's why it's important to have community empowerment. The community can decide what's appropriate for them in terms of the amount of solar, in terms of the amount of, you know, where wind should be, and whether hydropower can work for them. I do recognize, Nan, that 10 years, frankly, is a hugely aggressive target for getting our emissions to net zero. It's very aggressive. And yet, we need to start now. We need to start aggressively and get there as fast as we can. So I don't like to spend a lot of time on the 10 years. Is that possible or not? I like to talk about let's get going and get to work.
Andrew and I talked about the fact that there's just so much in this, you know, and it comes at you from so many different angles. And a lot of it is, well, what do you do? You know, what can you pick? Because we can't do it all. But, you know, so how do we pick something? Where do we start? Where's that bottom line that you walk in on and go, this is my starting spot? So it's just overwhelming when you look at it in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. It can be overwhelming. You know, thank you, Kathy. And that's why I say, what is your passion? What is your community's passion? And work on your passion. There's another item here in Multnomah County where there's a universal preschool initiative going on. That's very Green New Deal-ish. And the reason is that it allows people to work. And it's about justice and a social safety net. So if your passion is education and taking care of little ones and families, look at universal preschool. That's a way to go too. So you're right, Kathleen, a lot to do. That's why we need many hands doing different things.
Got a hand.
Harriet?
Thank you. Yes, Kathy, when I first looked at that, it was so overwhelming. That's why I had to, put it in something that I could, understand, some kind of subheadings. And before I got into the Green New Deal, I found, or the book Drawdown found me. Have you seen that book?
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.
When I read about how that was developed, he put it out on the internet. Hawkins put it out there on the internet and said, who's got solutions for sequestration? And people from all over the world just flooded him with these ideas, and he had to whittle it down to the top 100 for the book. But it told me that people are working on stuff. People are working on stuff. And that's when I started getting involved in politics, because I realized the only thing that's holding us back is the politics of it. So I went from reading books on, how do we do it to what's the, you know, overarching vision to the Engler brothers, this is an uprising. How is society transformed by nonviolent political activism? Because there are so many people that want to be working on this, so many underemployed people. And, you know, it's just like, we just have to take the barriers down to the energy that's here, that people love this earth. And in all these different kinds of work, there's going to be people that will be there.
It seems to me that the only thing scarier than the comprehensive New Deal is to imagine what happens if we don't get it done. And the consequences of not having a comprehensive approach to changing all of the things that Scott enumerated in the presentation is that we're not going to leave much of a planet to our grandkids. And I care about my grandkids a whole lot, as most people do. So I hope that Harriet's right, that there is a synergy building out there to get these things going and to turn our course around in the opposite direction that we've been heading in the last 4 years or more.
40.
Yeah.
Have you guys, Harriet mentioned it, but have you guys talked about the efforts here in Oregon to pass Clean Energy Jobs Bill, which I actually have problems with, but I can tell you about that. But, you know, kind of acting more, you know, Oregon is one of the only West Coast states that doesn't have something that addresses climate change in an organized fashion. Hence the Governor Brown's Executive Order 2004 asking the agencies to actually put together their plans for what they can do, which are, it's a nice start, but it's not a it's not where we want to, it's not what we need.
Yeah, thanks for raising that, Jim. Executive Order 2004 is something that we need to, we the citizens need to hold the agencies accountable, because on the other side, the opponents and the corporations are trying to use this moment of the economic downturn to encourage the organizations to slow down, and we cannot slow down. We need to adopt these quickly, aggressively, and comprehensively.
I just want to let the group know that this summer I'm a public health doctor, prevention doctor, and one of the things that was not in that bill, if you look at the first part of the problems discussion, public health and impacts on health and mental health are all over the discussion. In the solutions section of that bill and the subsequent bill, none of that was being addressed. None of it was funded. So communities have to be on their own without public health, who has the capacity to organize and mobilize, et cetera, to help out with those issues. So we actually put together a group of public health professionals and faculty members and responded to the OHA's, the Oregon Health Authority's, a plan, which is a really great plan. We were in support of what they proposed, but what they proposed was not enough. And we wanted the governor to know that.
Thanks, Jim. I think Jeffrey had a question.
Just a quick comment. I was in the room with Scott, so we were like preaching to the choir. But the one thing that I got from him that really I knew but didn't know I knew, we can't depend on leadership from above, from national level on this. It's got to start grassroots. It's got to be bottom up if we're going to get anything done quickly. That was the.
I kind of disagree with you. I think it's both and. I think it's both and.
We can't.
We have to push the top and we have to take action ourselves.
If we can change the top, yes. I mean,
I
Yeah,
think
and
depend on that.
I'd love to be able to change the top so we get a favorable wind instead of a huge headwind.
And let's hear from John Boonstra.
Oh, yeah. So I was just, thank you, Paul. I was just going to make a connection between Nyan's initial question and Harriet's response. You know, we worked on, as a lot of you have in your different local communities, on getting, in our case, we got the city of Hood River to pass an emergency declaration around climate. And we set up goals, you know, by to have 100% renewable energy, and it was presented by the young people, the Hood River High School and kids, and the city council said, well, we'll do it 2050 and the 2040, 2045, and the students came back 2030. It's going to be 2030, and then which they eventually passed. But then the way the mayor and other council members have interpreted it, I heard our mayor the next day talking to public broadcasting out of Portland saying, well, this was primarily aspirational. Well, I think Harriet's point, that's when I start taking Harriet's points and I say, you know what, it was not aspirational. You know, a lot of people in the climate movement, remember we go back to the thing about Rosie the Riveter, remember Rosie the Riveter, World War II, and this belief that, you know what, if we really wanted it, we'd have this done by 2025, 2030. It could happen. Drawdown is a great example of, you know, gosh, you know, Hawkins throws out these ideas and all of this stuff comes back. Why? Because people are working on it. And I think part of the excitement of a Green New Deal is that, yeah, and it's Naomi Klein's book, you know, it's about everything. It's about everything. And we start saying, no matter whether it's a piece of state public policy, whether it's a local energy plan development, you know, a lot of large urban areas and small towns are developing local energy plans, how they want to build their buildings, how they want to deal with transportation, how they want to deal with land and water. So I think it's sort of the fact that the Green New Deal is sort of all out there. It's like, you know, Kristen and I were talking in our small group, it's like an introduction to biblical theology. It's just sort of, it's all in there. And it's just a matter of getting aggressive. And to say, you know, we've all got, you know, a brother who's going through this. We've got a sister who's going through this, and to say it's the values, it's those values that are going to bring us together. So whether we agree on particular policies or not, we keep working on those values, and that's what's going to. So I feel, yeah. I mean, it's a steep road, but I feel, yeah, let's press for it. You know, we can do this. We're going to do this. We have to do this. Sorry, my little thing.
Thank you. Thank you. So
Andrew's got his hand up.
Yeah, a quick question.
Give me 1 second, Andrew. So while we continue the discussion, I'm going to ask you to put some intentions in the chat. So think about an action that you'd like to take in the next week and related to the Green New Deal, and put that in the chat. Some suggestions are set up a meeting with a friend to share your story, research a candidate's position, set a time to phone or text bank for a Green New Deal candidate, or join an organization taking action in my area. So think about an intention and put it in the chat. Andrew.
Okay. Changing tack slightly, because the way this has been presented, which makes a whole lot of sense, is this is individuals picking their passions and finding what to do. I don't want to sort of dissuade anybody from doing that. However, you have a group of people here connected to the UCC, connected to the larger UCC. Is there anything happening in the medium-sized, larger-sized UCC that we can connect with? Is there anything that anybody here can suggest that we can bring ourselves together to work on? Or is it simply go out and find your passion?
Jim is holding something up.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys talked about this, but I found this book, a pastor friend of mine, and then we ended up at the Pacific Northwest men's retreat last February, having a special retreat topic about climate change. And one of the readings was this book. This is written by Jim Antal, who is a UCC pastor for the last 15 years, has been working on this very issue. His passion is to get the church organized and in the book around addressing climate, what I call climate disruption. And he feels that it's an imperative for people of faith in the church to actually organize in the way that you were suggesting. I forget who was making the comment.
Well, this is an opportunity we have. Unfortunately, I don't know most of you, but we get this opportunity to discuss. Is this an opportunity that can be grasped, or is this just a passing thing?
Yeah, I guess the thing I'd see for the church to take on is awareness, right? Is spreading awareness to all of our UCC churches and the communities that they touch, especially into the heartland, let me say, and tie the Green New Deal to our values. So that's a suggestion that I would have for the wider church to take on, is let's build awareness and build a movement.
Is there anybody in the conference who is tying this together on the conference level?
That's a really good question. I don't know. Yeah, that's my question too. How do we pull together as a conference? Because I think, and Scott, you're right. I think different churches, different congregations, and different people are in different awareness. But I think there are some churches in our conference that are farther along than just, educating themselves. They want to go out and do stuff.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So Andrew, pull what together? Our
Green
climate
New
action
Deal.
with the church?
The Green New Deal and the UCC.
So, let me just say, and Paula knows about this too, just a few years ago, we had a pretty active conference level climate action network. This is a real good reminder that it's time to get the band back together again. But and I can pledge to be a part of that. I think one of the most, and I'm also on this National Environmental Advisory Council for the UCC, and one of the advantages, or one of the things that we need to remind ourselves, and it's Harriet's sort of illustration about drawdown, is that so many congregations are doing all kinds of really useful stuff at almost every level within the Green New Deal. And part of what we can do, I think, and I think, yeah, it's time to revitalize the Climate Action Network, and maybe it's a Green New Deal network, and we can pledge to make that happen, to make that a big part of what we do. But it's to share and create a platform where congregations get a chance to share not only what they're doing, but what they're doing locally with other community-based environmental and economic justice organizations in their own area. So I think I take Andrew's comments as okay, time to get the band back together here. We know what we got to do, and so.
I'd like to point him in a specific direction. Andrew, the United Church of Christ has an environmental office. It's headed by the Reverend Grant Brooks, who was the pastor of our church in Vancouver before going to the national setting. If you go to the UCC website, which is ucc.org, and start asking them to look up stuff about climate change, you'll discover Brandt's work and books he's written and workshops he's led and seminars he continues to do online. And he goes around the country stirring up ferment around the subject. And he networks together with other organizations as well, which is so necessary. The way Scott outlined our partnerships with other environmentally conscious groups in the Northwest. And so did John and others who work in this field.
And what the pastor's name again, Frank, is?
It's I think it's Brooks Brandt, although I can never get it.
Yeah, that's right. Brooks. Yes, yeah.
B-R-A-N-D-T. His first name is Brooks. And he works for the UCC out of Cleveland, probably from home now, wherever that is.
Well, Frank, thank you for that information. When Kathy and I were talking in the breakout, I'm always eager. It's great to turn off our lights, but that's not doing enough. We need some impact. So I'm looking for where's the impact point. And I just feel like we have an audience of 12 here who can go and talk to 200 people. There's potential. There's potential.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. So I just want to be respectful of time. We're 10 minutes over. So I'm just going to do a quick closing, and then we will. Glad to stay and continue the conversation, but I just like to wrap up, and then people who need to leave can go ahead and leave. I'll just leave you with one last thing. So just a quick quote from Prophet Greta Thunberg. Instead of looking for hope, look for action. Then, and only then, hope will come.
That's nice.
I thank everyone for attending, and I'm glad to stay on for a few more minutes for further discussion.
Thanks to you leaders. Sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to
Thank
everyone
you.
for your
Thank you.
contribution.
Hey, Emily. We just finished, Emily. Welcome.
Any further questions or thoughts?
I would say thank you for the presentation. I hope this is going to push me and others to do more.
I'm sharing the American Public Health Association web page on climate change and some of their recommendations and actions, so folks can take a look at that as well.
Thank you, Jim.
Chat.
It's in the chat.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts to share?
Since I joined at the end, I'm Emily from Alabama. And is there any good books right off the top I can write down as recommendations for this topic, or websites?
There it is.
Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Also, The Burning Case for a Green New Deal by Naomi Klein.
Thank you. I was
And-
late, but still able to learn something cool.
And the Sunrise Movement, winning the Green New Deal.
All right. Well, thank you. Everybody be blessed.